They called her strange, cold, arrogant, but they don't understand she's not unfriendly, she's undefeated. She's not lonely, she's set apart. When a woman walks alone, it's not always because she can't find friends, it's often because she's learned how to find herself. A woman with no friends is not empty, she's focused. She's walked through enough betrayal to understand that silence is sometimes safer than shallow company. Her phone doesn't ring with fake affection, but her spirit sings with unshakable clarity. She doesn't fear solitude, she's mastered it. She's chosen peace over popularity, depth over noise, truth over flattery. Not every woman is called to be surrounded. Some are called to be separated. And when heaven marks you for something bigger, your circle often shrinks before your crown is revealed. She remembers what it felt like to share her secrets with people who use them as weapons. She's tasted the bitter flavor of being laughed at, judged, and misunderstood. So now, she chooses carefully. She doesn't chase companionship, she attracts alignment. She has no time to entertain confusion disguised as friendship. When she shows up, she's whole, not looking to be completed. Because she understands not every silence needs to be told, and not every seat needs to be taken. Her table may be small, but her soul is full. A woman with no friends has learned to enjoy her own voice. She's found power in journaling her dreams instead of begging others to understand them. She prays with intensity, walks with certainty, and listens with wisdom. There's a calm about her that unnerves the insecure. They think she's distant, but really she's just determined. She doesn't explain her moves, she lets her results speak. Her absence isn't a cry for attention, it's a statement of elevation. While others flock to crowds for validation, she builds quietly, becoming a force no one saw coming. She is the kind of woman whose presence feels like a shift. She walks in with unseen authority, and even the room grows still. Not because she demands respect, but because she commands it with her energy. She doesn't need to be heard to be felt. You won't find her in gossip or in shallow circles. You'll find her where purpose dwells in books, in prayer, in deep thought, in movement. She's not avoiding people. She's ascending beyond where they are willing to go. Her solitude is not sorrow, it is sanctified space where she meets her creator and her calling. Loneliness is real, but she no longer confuses it with aloneness. She's wept in the night, yes, but she's also risen with new strength. She's faced birthdays with no calls, victories with no cheers, and breakdowns with no shoulders, but she didn't break. She built. She learned how to clap for herself, how to comfort herself, how to carry herself. When you've walked through fire without witnesses, you come out with a glow the world cannot dim. Her light is internal. Her joy is unshaken. And her identity is no longer tied to who shows up, but to who never leaves. A woman with no friends doesn't see it as a deficit. She sees it as divine strategy. She's not meant to blend, and she's meant to blaze trails. She is the blueprint for resilience, the model for maturity. Her walk is heavy because she carries nations in her womb, visions in her chest, and discipline in her steps. While others waste time in empty conversations, she invests time in growth, wisdom, and becoming. And because of that, she stands tall, misunderstood, maybe, but never misplaced. Her direction is upward, and her pace is divine. There's a reason her phone is dry, her weekends quiet, and her circle invisible. She is being preserved, not punished. What she's carrying requires silence, sacredness, and stillness. You can't walk in divine power and keep casual connections. The oil she carries is expensive, and not everyone can handle it. So heaven filtered her circle. It wasn't rejection, it was protection. And she understands that deeply now. She's not bitter, she's better. She's not sad, she's sent. She's not friendless, she's focused on walking with the one who never left her side. This woman may not have brunch dates, group chats, or crowded rooms, but she has fire in her bones. She has stories written in her scars and sermons hidden in her solitude. She doesn't compete. She doesn't compare. She creates. She builds. She becomes. And when she speaks, her words carry birth from seasons of silence, not noise. She knows who she is, and that scares those who haven't figured it out yet. But she doesn't shrink to be accepted, she rises to be aligned. So if you ever meet a woman with no friends, don't feel sorry for her. Respect her. You're standing in front of someone who survived every test alone, who healed without an audience, who chose peace over people, and purpose over popularity. She's not lonely, she's legendary. And while others need a crowd to find themselves, she only needed courage to become herself. A woman with no friends doesn't lack connection. She has mastered a different kind of relationship, the one with herself. While others seek external validation, she found internal clarity. Her silence is not an emptiness to be filled, but a decision to stay full. She doesn't chase noise because she has found music in her own heartbeat. Many think she's missing out, but she's actually walking into depth, focus, and self-honesty. Her time is not consumed by constant company, but by consistent growth. She reads when others gossip, reflects when others rant, and builds when others break. Her focus is uncommon. Her spirit is unshaken. The world doesn't understand her distance, but she isn't distant. She's simply uninterested and shallow. She sees through fake smiles and forced connections. She knows what it feels like to be surrounded but unseen. So she chose herself this time. And that decision changed everything. She's not avoiding people, she's protecting her peace. She walks alone, not because she's weak, but because she's powerful enough to not fear solitude. When life pulls you away from crowds, from cliques, and from the chatter, it's not always rejection, it's often a redirection. She didn't lose her friends. She lost distractions. Heaven filters the room before revealing your next level. Some people can't go where she's going. Some conversations can't survive her growth. And so what looked like loneliness was really God's strategy. In the stillness, she heard clearly. In the quiet, she healed deeply. And without the noise, she found herself. She realized her value wasn't determined by how many people text her, but by how faithfully she shows up for herself. While others look for someone to complete them, she learned how to become whole. She doesn't just sit in silence, she strengthens in it. She meditates, prays, plans, and prepares. Her season of separation is sacred. The ones who misunderstood her silence as silence didn't deserve her sound. And when she finally speaks again, it won't be for attention, it will be to awaken purpose in others. It takes boldness to choose peace in a world that worships popularity, but she has chosen it again and again. She would rather be unknown and whole than famous and fractured. She doesn't need to be invited to every event, mentioned in every room, or included in every plan. Her peace is more valuable than her presence in places she's outgrown. She once tried to force friendships to avoid the ache of being alone. Now, she understands some connections aren't meant to be kept, they're meant to be lessons. Her peace has become her filter. If it costs her energy, clarity, or authenticity, she lets it go. She's done with pretending. She refuses to smile where her soul frowns. She no longer chooses company out of fear. She chooses solitude out of strength. And in doing so, she's found the rarest kind of power, inner calm. That peace has taught her more than conversations ever could. And she's not giving up for anything or anyone. It takes boldness to choose peace in a world that worships popularity, but she has chosen it again and again. She would rather be unknown and whole than famous and fractured. She doesn't need to be invited to every event, mentioned in every room, or included in every plan. Her peace is more valuable than her presence in places she's outgrown. She once tried to force friendships to avoid the ache of being alone. Now, she understands some connections aren't meant to be kept, they're meant to be lessons. Her peace has become her filter. If it costs her energy, clarity, or authenticity, she lets it go. She's done with pretending. She refuses to smile where her soul frowns. She no longer chooses company out of fear. She chooses solitude out of strength. And in doing so, she's found the rarest kind of power, inner calm. That peace has taught her more than conversations ever could. And she's not giving up for anything or anyone. The world calls silence weakness, but she's learned it as wisdom. She doesn't speak just to be heard. She doesn't shout to prove a point. Her silence is a shield, her quiet a weapon. In that silence, she observes what others miss. She sees who is real, who is temporary, and who is only there when it's convenient. Her spirit discerns what noise distracts and what presence heals. She has learned that not every question needs an answer, and not every moment deserves her reaction. Her silence protects her from drama and pulls her closer to clarity. In the stillness, she hears divine instruction. In the calm, she gains power. Her silence is not avoidance, it's alignment. It's how she listens to her soul. While others panic in quiet, she thrives in it. She knows that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a decision to say nothing and walk away. She is silent not because she has nothing to say, but because she has nothing to prove. She doesn't chase after anyone because she has already caught herself. The old her begged to belong. Explained too much, stayed too long. The new her simply exits when peace is disturbed. She no longer explains why she's unavailable. She owes no one access to her sacred space. She doesn't run after energy that walks away. If someone values her, they won't need to be convinced. She's no longer interested in proving her worth to people who refuse to see it. She's focused now, not desperate, not longing, not thirsty. She attracts people by being deeply rooted in herself. Her authenticity creates alignment. She doesn't force connections, she filters them. If the energy isn't mutual, the bond won't last. She understands that not everyone can handle her truth, and that's okay. She'd rather walk alone than dance with deceit. Her loyalty is not for sale, and her time is not on discount. She knows what she brings, and she refuses to chase what doesn't recognize it. Her soul is not lonely, it is full of lessons, prayers, thoughts, and visions. Her circle may be small or even invisible, but her world is vast. She has built a home inside herself, one that doesn't crumble when others leave. She's learned how to be content in her own company, to laugh without an audience, and to grow without a witness. She doesn't need external celebration because she claps from within. She understands that true fulfillment isn't found in crowds, it's found in calling. Her days are not defined by who checks in, but by how deeply she checks in with herself. She's created joy that doesn't rely on other people's moods. She's become so complete that presence is a gift, not a need. Her fullness intimidates the half-hearted, but she wasn't made to fit into empty spaces. She was made to be whole, to stand strong, and to overflow. Even with no visible circle, she still shines, because her soul has never depended on numbers to know its worth. Her past taught her the high cost of misplaced trust. She sat across tables with smiles that hit swords. She's cried over friendships that felt like family, only to be met with silence when she needed them most. That pain didn't turn her bitter, it turned her wise. Now she observes before she opens. She listens before she leans. She's not guarded out of fear, but out of respect for her own healing. She knows that loyalty cannot be begged or bought. It must be proven in silence, not promised in speech. She no longer gives access just because someone is familiar. She has learned that familiarity is not the same as safety. She's healed enough to protect her space with boldness. Not everyone gets to walk beside her. Not everyone deserves her story. What once broke her has now built boundaries. And she doesn't regret a single wall she's had to build. Those walls are not barriers, they are borders of sacred ground. She walks into a room and things shift. Even before she speaks, there is a quiet power in her steps, a settled authority in her gaze. She doesn't enter looking for approval, she brings clarity. People feel her presence before they hear her words. That's because her power is internal, not external. She doesn't dominate with volume, but with vibration. She's done the inner work, and now she doesn't have to prove anything. Her confidence is not cockiness, it's the calm of knowing who she is. She doesn't need to impress, outperform, or overshadow. She's enough by simply being present. Her stillness speaks louder than other people's performance. She's not the loudest voice, but she is often the most remembered, because what she carries isn't noise, it's substance. You may overlook her at first, but once you see her, you cannot unsee her. She is a storm in silence, a force wrapped in grace. She's familiar with celebrations that had no guests, with victories that echoed in empty rooms. And yet she still celebrated. She clapped for herself, not out of pride, but survival. She has been her own comfort, her own motivator, her own support system. She learned early on that depending on others for validation leads to disappointment. So she created rituals of self-honor. She writes down her wins, speaks life into her reflection, and gives herself the love she once begged for. When no one else believed in her, she still moved forward. When no one saw her value, she increased it. She didn't let the lack of cheerleaders stop the race. She ran anyway. And that's what makes her different. Her growth is not built on praise, it's built on perseverance. She doesn't wait to be seen. She sees herself, and that vision is what fuels her. It's what makes her unstoppable. She used to run from being alone, thinking it meant she wasn't loved. But now she understands aloneness is not a punishment, it's a portal. In her solitude, she found her voice. In her stillness, she met her strength. She stopped confusing being alone with being unwanted. She realized that solitude is where healing begins, where clarity is born, and where purpose takes shape. She no longer sees her empty calendar as a curse. She sees it as time reclaimed. Time to read, to think, to breathe, to build. She's no longer afraid of quiet weekends or silent nights. She uses them. She grows in them. She thrives in them. Because now she knows it's better to be alone and whole than surrounded and lost. Solitude isn't her shadow, it's her sanctuary. And from that place of sacred aloneness, she has emerged not empty but empowered. When heaven has a calling on your life, isolation often precedes elevation. A woman who walks alone is not forgotten, she is being preserved. While others are busy being visible, she is becoming valuable. There is a sacred filter placed over her connections, not to deprive her, but to prepare her. The weight she is meant to carry requires strength not found in crowds. She's not being overlooked, she's being guarded. The silence is not punishment, it's positioning. Her detours are not delays, they are divine directions. Those who were removed from her life weren't accidents, they were extraction. Some friendships expire when destiny awakens. Heaven hides what hell cannot handle. She doesn't waste time begging for inclusion. She uses this space to refine her vision. And in due time, what was hidden will be revealed, not for attention, but for assignment. The one who was set apart will soon stand apart because elevation always follows separation. She no longer waits for applause to take the next step. She has learned how to affirm herself, to cheer for her growth, and to stand in her own validation. There were nights when she cried with no one to hear it, mornings when she rose with no one to notice. Yet she still rose. She found the power of internal celebration, the sacred rhythm of self-recognition. No birthday post, no dinner plans, and no bouquet was her and her journey. And still she danced. Still she smiled. She began to measure her growth, not by approval, but by alignment. She honored her small wins in big ways. She didn't wait for the world to see her, she saw herself. She didn't need a crowd to feel crowned. She learned to celebrate herself not as an act of ego, but as an act of survival. Because sometimes the only hands clapping are your own, and that is more than enough. She doesn't just walk into rooms, she enters atmospheres. Her presence alone demands applause. Not because she tries, but because of what she carries. It's not perfume or posture, it's purpose. People turn to look, not out of curiosity, but out of recognition. Something about her spirit speaks before her mouth ever opens. She brings peace to chaos, clarity to confusion. And when she finally does speak, her words don't just sound good, they mean something. Her silence before she speaks is not hesitation, it's precision. She's measured, intentional, whole. She's not loud, but she is heard, not flashy, but unforgettable. Her strength is subtle, but deep. She doesn't move for attention, she moves with intention. And when she walks away, something lingers. It's not attitude, it's atmosphere. She doesn't force herself to be seen. She simply shows up fully, and that's enough to change the room. She has endured enough storms to know what stillness truly means. What once shattered her now strengthens her. She has learned how to hold herself together when the world was falling apart around her. Her solitude has become sacred. The silence that used to feel like isolation now feels like home. She doesn't fear being misunderstood anymore. She doesn't explain her quiet days or her empty calendar. She knows healing is a full-time job, and she's clocked in every day without witnesses. She has picked herself up without help, spoken life into herself without praise, and grown roots in seasons that look barren. She doesn't fear the dark, she's made peace with it. Because it was in the dark that she discovered her own light. And now she walks with a glow that can't be explained, only experienced. She is living proof that being alone doesn't mean you're lost, it means you're finally found.